Good evening. A catastrophic aviation disaster in the high Andes has claimed at least 20 lives and left a nation in mourning, raising urgent questions about military aviation safety and the transport of sensitive national assets. I am your host, and this is a Kenya News Update Today's special report. Tonight, we're taking a deep, 12-minute dive into the tragic crash of a Bolivian Air Force C-130 Hercules transport plane, an aircraft that was carrying a highly unusual cargo, millions of dollars worth of newly printed banknotes. This is not just a story of mechanical failure or bad weather. It is a complex narrative touching on national security, economic stability, and the profound human cost of a single moment on a runway. We begin with the stark facts of the incident, which unfolded at 6:15 p.m. local time, 10:15 p.m. GMT, this past Friday. The aircraft, designated as a Bolivian Air Force asset, was on a routine domestic flight from the economic hub of Santa Cruz in the eastern lowlands to the administrative capital, La Paz, high in the mountains. Its destination was Alto International Airport, one of the highest commercial airports in the world, sitting at a breathtaking 4,061 meters, or over 13,300 feet, above sea level. As the Hercules approached for landing, authorities report it encountered severe weather conditions, including strong crosswinds and possibly reduced visibility. Initial reports from aviation officials indicate the plane skidded off the runway during its landing attempt. But the tragedy escalated horrifically from a runway excursion. The massive aircraft, failing to stop, careened through the airport perimeter and plowed directly onto a busy highway adjacent to the airfield. This was not an isolated crash site. It was a collision with public infrastructure at a peak travel time. The impact with vehicles on that highway is what appears to have caused a significant portion of the devastating casualty count. The Bolivian Defense Ministry swiftly confirmed its aircraft was involved and disclosed the critical detail of its cargo. It was transporting newly printed Boliviano banknotes from the mint in Santa Cruz to the central bank in La Paz. Police Colonel René Tambo, head of the Homicide Division, provided the grim initial assessment, stating, quote, "There are about 20, maybe a few more, dead." The injured count was placed at more than 30 individuals. These figures represent not just numbers on a page, but pilots, crew members, and entirely innocent civilians going about their Friday evening on a highway whose lives were irrevocably altered or ended. To understand the full gravity of this event, we must first contextualize the location. El Alto International Airport is notorious among aviators. Its extreme altitude means the air is thin, significantly reducing aircraft and engine performance. Planes need longer runways to achieve takeoff speed and land at higher velocities. The margin for error is razor thin. Combine this with the notoriously unpredictable and fierce Andean weather, sudden wind shears, storms, and rapidly descending cloud cover, and you have an environment that demands peak performance from both machine and crew. The aircraft at the center of this tragedy, the Lockheed C-130 Hercules, is a legendary workhorse. First introduced in the 1950s, it is renowned for its ruggedness, reliability, and ability to operate from rough, short airstrips. It is the backbone of military and humanitarian airlift for dozens of nations, including Kenya. However, the specific airframe involved, its maintenance history, and the age of Bolivia's fleet become immediate lines of inquiry. How many flight hours did this particular Hercules have? When was its last major overhaul? The C-130 is tough, but it is not invincible, especially when operating at the very edge of its performance envelope in one of the world's most challenging airports. Now, let us visualize the immediate human and operational toll of this disaster. The cargo adds a layer of profound complexity and symbolism to this accident. We are talking about a military plane carrying the literal currency of the nation. This was not a routine logistical flight for troops or equipment. It was a high-value, high-security transfer of economic material. The immediate questions are logistical and security related. Why use a military aircraft for this transfer? Is this a standard procedure in Bolivia for moving currency from the print facility to the central bank? What security protocols were in place for the cargo? And what has happened to the millions in Bolivianos now scattered across a crash site? The imagery of banknotes fluttering amid the wreckage is a powerful and disturbing metaphor. It speaks to the intersection of state power, economic function, and tragic vulnerability. The investigation, likely to be led by Bolivia's Directorate General of Civil Aviation with support from the military, will be multifaceted. It will follow the standard protocol of examining the wreckage, analyzing flight data and cockpit voice recorders if recovered, reviewing maintenance logs, and modeling weather conditions. But the presence of the currency cargo may introduce additional investigative threads concerning cargo security, weight and balance calculations, and whether any special procedures for such a flight were followed. Early speculation from aviation experts, based on the known facts of a runway overrun in bad weather at a high-altitude airport, points to a few probable contributing factors. The first and most prominent is wind shear, or a sudden loss of airspeed on final approach, causing the aircraft to land short or hard. The second is hydroplaning. If the runway was wet, the aircraft's tires could have lost contact with the pavement, rendering braking ineffective. The third is a potential combination of pilot error, perhaps a misjudged approach speed or altitude, and the unforgiving margin for error at El Alto. It is crucial to emphasize that these are early speculations, not conclusions. A formal investigation takes months. The human impact of this crash extends far beyond the immediate casualty figures of 20 dead and 31 injured. For the families of the crew, it is the loss of loved ones serving their country. For the victims on the highway, it is a random, unimaginable catastrophe. For the nation of Bolivia, it is a blow to its military and a shocking public disaster. The psychological impact on first responders who witnessed the scene, and on the community of El Alto, will be significant and lasting. The city of El Alto itself, a sprawling, largely indigenous city that overlooks La Paz, is no stranger to hardship. This accident will resonate deeply in its densely populated neighborhoods situated so close to the airport's boundary. The crash also raises urgent questions for the Bolivian government of President Luis Arce. There will be demands for accountability and transparency in the investigation. The public will want to know if this was a preventable accident. Were there known issues with the aircraft? Are the procedures for flying such missions in adverse weather at El Alto stringent enough? Furthermore, the use of a military asset for what appears to be a central bank function may come under scrutiny. Is this the most efficient and safe use of Air Force resources? Could commercial or specialized charter flights be a safer alternative for currency transport, given that they might operate under different, potentially stricter, civilian regulatory frameworks for cargo and passenger safety? To provide a clearer picture of the scale of this tragedy, let us look at the casualty breakdown as currently understood. The international dimension of this crash is also noteworthy. As a signatory to international aviation conventions, Bolivia will be expected to conduct a thorough and transparent investigation. The manufacturer, Lockheed Martin, and potentially the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board may offer technical assistance. Neighboring countries in South America with similar high-altitude operational challenges, like Peru and Chile, will be watching closely for lessons learned. For a global audience, including here in Kenya, this crash is a sobering reminder of the inherent risks in aviation, especially in extreme environments. Kenya's own aviation sector, which includes challenging airstrips in remote and high-altitude areas, can draw pertinent lessons about risk assessment, pilot training for specific conditions, and aircraft maintenance vigilance. The Kenya Air Force, which also operates transport aircraft, will undoubtedly be reviewing its own safety protocols in light of this event. The economic implications, while secondary to the human loss, are still tangible. The loss of the currency itself, while likely insured, represents a direct financial hit. The cost of the destroyed C-130 Hercules, a multi-million-dollar asset, is a significant loss for the Bolivian Air Force's limited fleet and budget. The disruption to operations at El Alto International Airport, a critical gateway for tourism and commerce, may have short-term economic effects. And, on a more subtle level, the image of a nation's currency scattered in wreckage could have an intangible impact on both domestic and international confidence. As the investigation unfolds in the coming weeks and months, several key pieces of evidence will be paramount. The recovery and analysis of the flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorder, the so-called black boxes, will be critical. They will tell investigators the exact speed, altitude, engine performance, and configuration of the aircraft in its final moments, as well as capture the conversations and alarms in the cockpit. The wreckage pattern will be meticulously mapped to determine the exact sequence of impact. Weather radar data from the time of the accident will be scrutinized to understand the precise wind and precipitation conditions, and the testimony of air traffic controllers, ground personnel, and survivors will provide the human context. In the meantime, Bolivia is left to mourn. The nation has declared 3 days of official mourning. Funerals for the victims will be held, memorials will be erected, and for the families, the long, painful journey of grief and seeking answers has just begun. The promise of a thorough investigation is the least that can be offered to them. This tragedy at Alto Airport forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about the systems we rely on. It highlights the vulnerability of even the most robust machines and procedures when faced with nature's fury at the roof of the world. It underscores the profound responsibility borne by military and civilian aviators who operate in these theaters. And it reminds us that policy decisions, like how to transport national treasures, have real-world consequences for safety. The story of this crash is still being written. The final casualty count may yet change. The definitive cause may take a year or more to establish. But the outlines are clear: a combination of a demanding environment, a heavy aircraft on a critical mission, and adverse weather conspired to create a perfect storm of tragedy. The banknotes, a symbol of national sovereignty and economic life, became mere debris, underscoring how quickly order can dissolve into chaos. From our studios in Nairobi, we extend our deepest condolences to the people of Bolivia, to the families of all the victims, and to a nation grappling with a profound loss. The skies over the Andes will bear witness to this sorrow for a long time to come. This has been a Kenya News Update Today special report. I am your host. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to Kenya News Update Today for more in-depth coverage of events shaping our world.